stand for the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please turn off any cell phones or anything like that. Start experimenting with feet now. And I think we're going to start off a couple of presentations.
We'll start off with Mrs. Howard and Mrs. Singer. Mrs. Howard.
Hi, everyone. This is about 2/3 of our first semester of Swing Singers. We have 34 kids in this group last year. We run in 2 semesters, 2 kind of sports team seasons. The first semester is a girls' choir. Second semester we do a boys' choir. We have more kids that sing in the jazz band, and we continue the girls' choir. After they sing for tonight, a couple of kids have some things they wanted to say as well. Singing the Boogie Woogie Boy.
Let's make a jump and then my Chicago way. You had a boogie style, no one else could play. He was a top man at his craft. And then his summer came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, although around the league. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy company. He made the clothes you before his uncle said. He really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand. Because the next thing count, put out a draft in the band. Another company jumps when he was traveling. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy company. A roots, a toots, a tootie, a tootie, close into the car. And boogie rhythm, you can't go no unless the bass and guitars play with love. And the company jumps when he was traveling. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy company B. He was some boogie woogie bugle boy company B. He puts the voices in the boogie every night. He wakes them up the same way in the early fright. And has their hands dance in their feet. Because they know how he plays when someone gives him a beat. He really breaks it up when he goes traveling. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy company B. A root, a toot, a tootie, a tootie, blows into the car. In boogie rhythm, you can't go no unless the bass and guitars play with love. And the company jumps when he goes traveling. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy company B.
Hi, I'm Grace Bowman, and I'm a senior here at high school. When I came to this school, I was a level 7th grader, and to be serious, this big school was extremely intimidating. It was hard for me to make friends, and I didn't exactly know how to get involved in clubs. But I had 2 friends who were in 8th and 9th grade, and they knew I loved to sing. I was nervous about joining Swing Singers, but after one practice, I was hooked. In Swing Singers, I was surrounded by people who loved to sing and that were confident. These older girls showed me how to be confident, not only on stage, but in school. Because of Swing Singers and all the other music and art programs here, I am who I am today. Now that I'm a senior, I realize what a role model I have to be to the younger children. I hope I am the one that they look up to now, and I can't wait to see who they become. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Claire Capellino, and I'm a sophomore here at Eden. First time I wanted to, be in Swing Singers was when I was in 7th grade. I remember going into first practice being so nervous because I had no idea what it was going to be like. But after hearing the sing for the first time, it was so amazing because we sounded so good. And I remember singing Bohemian Rhapsody in 7th grade and coming out of that and saying, I don't know choruses sound like this. Swing Singers to me is the best after school activity to be in. I I've learned so much, and I've had such a great time just singing with everybody and learning new songs. I've been at Swing Singers every single year I've been here, and as the new 7th graders come in every year, I hope that they experience and love Swing Singers as much as I do.
I'm Cassandra Funk, and I'm a sophomore here. I didn't join Swing Singers until I was in 8th grade, and I really regret it that I didn't, because it kind of helped me break open, I guess. I wasn't the most confident person or the nicest person to be around. But I made a lot of friends who weren't afraid to tell me that, and it's cool to hear what we can do. Like, to walk into practice and be able to go through a song that I would never get to sing in normal chorus, it's so much fun. And because it sounds good, it makes it all better. So I just hope the rest of the younger kids that come in can really, feel the way I did and open up and just be who they are.
Grace is passing out to you. This is, I'm going to read you a little bit of it. I tried to find it on YouTube so we can put it up, which is a little more interesting than having a speech read to you. But these are the words of Wynton Marsalis. He's quite a famous jazz musician, and he won the Pulitzer Prize recently, and he's the head of the jazz studies at Lincoln Center, the big jazz group. And he spoke this speech, a portion of this, when he was accepting the Pulitzer Prize, and he talked about music and arts programs. And this is what he says. He says, school administrators facing budget cuts often look to eliminate what they consider non-essential programs. Invariably, their red pen leads to the same line item, music class. It strikes me strange that music is considered non-essential. More than simply being a source of cultural pride and listening pleasure, music represents a core ingredient in the education of our children. Music, in its purest form, encompasses the very ideals that we want to impart to our children. Let us consider a few. Because music makes abstract thought concrete, it forces us to develop several important cognitive functions. Memory. Musicians must memorize not only the melody of a piece, but also the individual notes that make it up. Within that, music teaches us the language of expression. You and I and Martin Luther King Jr. could read the same exact speech and it wouldn't sound the same. The words are the same, of course, but why is it that Dr. King's voice and tone carried something beyond the words? It's the expressiveness of the performance. Similarly, 3 people playing a trumpet don't sound the same. They can play the same note or melody, but only some trumpet players have a feeling that touches our heart. Music also teaches us how to get along with others. Consider the music I love, jazz. Each member of the group can improvise, but if none of it works, for a soloist or an ensemble, if the musicians do not play in balance, if the drummer who plays the loudest instrument decides he wants to be much louder than the bass who has the softest instrument, you're gonna have discord. This group dynamic teaches the importance of choice, and many choices require some form of sacrifice. You must listen. You must have conversation. The group must work together to achieve its goals. Jazz, in many ways, embodies our core democratic principles. The motto of the United States is "E pluribus unum," out of many one. Likewise, in music, we celebrate the skills of the individual, as well as the strength of the group. Playing music also allows us to interact with some of our greatest artistic minds. When you perform the music of Charlie Parker or Bernstein, you understand their world. With each song, we get a glimpse of the intellectual life contained within the artistic statement. Today, I still get special joy from instructing children. I try to show them the many lessons of good musical craftsmanship, particularly because I feel that so little good music is available to them. The music that our children hear on the radio may feel good, like a candy bar, but it has no nutrition. Let's skip one. Music must remain a core part of the teaching curriculum. Every school should have an orchestra, and it should play the music of this country. Duke Ellington, Aaron Copland, William Van Still. We should have jazz ensembles in our middle schools, blues bands in our high schools. As adults, we need to say, this is America we know and we love. Education works on many levels. It must inform and incite the mind, as well as nourish the spirit. Music is a key part of that education. And to further go on, it's no coincidence that your top-ranked schools in this area have the richest, biggest
most expansive music programs. It's directly linked to brain research that says your smartest children benefit from these music programs, and the kids that struggle benefit the most. It develops your math centers, it develops your language centers. It's not, to us, a frill, and this is all based in actual brain research. Because we're kind of asking that these programs not become a victim, and it's not just the music that we're talking about the arts and sports and all extracurriculars, because I know as a student myself growing up, I played sports and I was in student government and was in music, and all of these kids deserve these same opportunities as we're having to start making some hard choices. So we're just asking respectfully that these successful award-winning programs that you already have established in this building do not become the victim of this. So we thank you for your attention tonight and for allowing us to perform for you.
Thank you. Joe Clement from Husky Schaefer about the external audit. All yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Clement with the audit firm Husky Schaefer and Company. We're out of Windsor, New York. Last week we met with the audit committee and discussed these financial statements at length over an hour-and-a-half meeting. I want to try to summarize the results of our audit and the financial status of the school district as of the year ended June 30th, 2011. The board is responsible for governance of the school district. Management is responsible for preparing the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We are the auditors of management's financial statements, and the board, with its policies and procedures, offers the governance of its internal control structure. And we look at the internal control structure in planning our audit and coming up with our recommendations. There are no significant audit findings during our audit. We noted no matters that need to be communicated directly to the board, such as fraudulent activities or theft or anything along those lines. Significant accounting policies were consistent from year to year, except that for the year ended June 30th, 2011, the district implemented a new accounting standards in the way the fund balances are now described. It's called GASB Statement Number 54, Fund Balance Reporting and Governmental Fund Type Definitions. There are new definitions of fund balance, which I will take you briefly through later. Accounting estimates. Your financial statements are full accounting estimates. Management estimates were all evaluated and we determined they are all reasonable in all the circumstances related to the financial statements as a whole. Significant disclosures are in your financial statements. Your long-term debt disclosure is very important for you to look at, and the disclosure of commitments and contingencies. There were no difficulties in performing the audit. Management and accounting personnel were very helpful in assisting us doing our audit. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. There were no material adjustments that we needed to record to the accounting statements as a result of our audit procedures. There were no disagreements with management as we were performing the audit. Management did provide us strict recommendations regarding the financial statement policies and procedures that they do use. We're not aware of any consultations with other auditors or other accountants between management and the district. And other audit findings and issues, as we've discussed during the year, we are auditors. We assist management in the disclosures of the financial statements and accounting transactions. We do that for the normal course of being your auditors. The financial statements, results of our audit, as on page 59. I'll go real close and let you know about what those are. Summary of our audit results. It's a document that's required under OMB Circular 8133 and the Single Audit Act. We audit their federal programs, and that requires us to issue a statement of findings and question costs. And just to go through that briefly, the financial statements, we issued a clean, unqualified opinion on your financial statements. We looked at your internal control or financial reporting, which is the way you present your financial statements and account for your transactions. There were no material weaknesses identified in your internal controls over financial reporting, nor were there any conditions that we needed to talk about or describe as significant deficiencies. There were none of those either. Also, over your financial statements, there are no material non-compliance to the financial statements that was noted, such as being over budget in any particular categories along those lines. And your federal awards programs, we audited 3 of your major programs. We audited the special education cluster. We audited the state fiscal stabilization cluster. Of those 2 programs that we audited, major programs, we issued an unqualified clean opinion on your compliance over the internal controls of those programs. We also did not have any material weaknesses regarding the internal controls related to those programs, nor significant deficiencies, and we did not have any audit findings related to those programs. It was a very, very good year by management and audit controls and procedures and governed by the board. In terms of your financial statements, management discussion and analysis on page 3, your financial highlights, the district's net assets increased $1,244,489 during the year. It was primarily due to actual expenditures being less than was budgeted. The assets of the primary government, the district as a whole, exceeded its liabilities at the close of the year by $9,502,000. That amount includes, which that's your equity, $9,502,490 includes all the classes of your assets, all your long-term debt, all your capital assets. This amount also includes unrestricted net assets of a positive number, $2,715,830. In terms of your governmental funds, at the close of the current fiscal year, the district's governmental funds reported combined ending fund balances of $6,532,951, which is an increase of $61,492 in comparison to the prior year. Approximately 16% of the fund balance, or $1,036,948, is available for spending at the district's discretion. The other fund balances are restricted to the reserves and restricted accounts the board has set up. The general fund has reported a net increase in its fund balance of $82,377, and at June 30th, 2011, a new term called unassigned fund balance, that it used to be called undesignated fund balance, now it's called unassigned fund balance. It was $1,036,948, which is in compliance with the 4% of subsequent years' budget appropriations of real property tax law, section 1318. Any questions so far? We did issue a management letter. Our management letter had 2 recommendations. As I mentioned before, the district had no material weaknesses. We reported no material weaknesses in internal control. We had 2 recommendations where the district can enhance their internal controls and improve their internal controls. One was the extra classroom activity fund. We noted they had several cash receipts were not signed off by the student activity treasurer, and also the central treasurer did not sign off on one cash receipt. So not very significant, but there is rules and regulations out there. There's a state education department that put out that pamphlet number 2, the safeguarding, accounting, and auditing extra classroom activity funds, and our recommendation that the procedure be put in place to ensure that the student treasurers are signing off on all the cash receipts. And one other comment we have to increase the effectiveness of your internal control is to have your claims auditor, your independent claims auditor, review the trust and agency checks that are issued by the agency. That's our comment there.
You're saying right now all the checks are not reviewed by the claim auditor?
Yes, all but the trust and agency checks. reviewed by the claims auditor.
Now, these are
Tax and collection, payroll transfers.
Any questions?
If there were one question, I'll actually let anybody else first email questions. You did make one comment around the $1.2 million net asset increase. Could you describe a little more about what you think was there or was not there?
The return on net assets of the district includes all the net assets, and that page 9 of the report, it goes on to describe what happened during the year. Our revenues, total revenues of the district for the year ended June 30, 2010 was $25,988,000, slight decrease in the prior year of 3%. The total expenses were $24,743,000, slight increase of 3.84%. The difference between the two is $1,244,489.
Did you do any work to look at that versus budget?
Yes. That doesn't include the budget. This is the total net assets.
Right. Look at those active funds, how they came against the budget.
Yes. Because we report on page 48 and 49. This is the required schedule. Schedule revenue expenditure change from fund balance, budget and actual general fund. On page 48 are your revenues. Your revenues were, page 47 of revenues. Your revenues were $362,000. This is your general fund. $362,000 over budget. And that's a good positive. In your expenditures, the general fund, on page 48, we're $2,495,000 under budget.
So we underran the revenue.
Revenue was over budget.
Revenue was over budget by $362,000, so we were light on the budget by $362,000. And expenditures, we were over estimating our expenses by $2.5 million.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We're ready to move on with the general agenda. Last one, consensus items. Anyone have any consensus items they'd like to remove? I have I and M. That person, if you wouldn't mind. It's all yours.
Approval of consensus items. I move that the following consensus items be approved as listed in the administrative memorandum: A through H, J through L, and N through P.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that this is transfers in excess of $10,000. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the budget transfers in excess of $10,000 be approved as presented.
Second. Discussion? Yeah, I was wondering if we could get a description of what's going on there with that budget transfers.
Yeah, we budgeted it in general code, a district-wide code, because we did not know where this position would actually be. It ended up being in Eden Elementary, so that's where we transferred it. It was in an OO code, we transferred it to an OO code.
How much money is in the district-wide?
Is the teacher able to share? This is the Eugene Elementary that was some shuffling.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Item M, appoint supplemental activity advisors and coaches for the 2011-12 school year. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the following personnel be appointed as supplemental activity advisors and coaches for the 2011-12 school year, provided that these appointments will not be effective and service to the district pursuant thereto shall not begin until there has been compliance with statutory and regulatory provisions for fingerprinting, certification, and clearance for employment. See attached list.
Discussion? I have a question. One line item that was added was the family support counselors in there, and I guess I've never been quite clear on how that's funded. It used to be years ago it was funded through Boys and Girls Club. And is this 100% now funded to the district?
The counselors are all funded through the district.
Other costs funded outside?
Through donations and things like that. There are some that requires major costs of the counselors.
So they are 100% cost. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, we offer anyone the chance in the audience like to take 2 minutes and come up and speak. If you do, please identify who you're with and your name. And 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Janowski. I am the French teacher and department chair of the LOTE Languages Other Than English department. I'm speaking on behalf of the LOTE department, concerned parents and students. We are here tonight to respectfully ask for clarification in a timely manner of the stated district goal number 2 to change language offerings at the high school. Changing language offerings is a major decision with a far-reaching impact on our French, German, and Spanish programs. These programs have strong support from the community, our colleagues, and the administration. All of these languages also have high student enrollment, excellent test scores, and genuine student interest. We ask the board to please open up the lines of communication to allow us, as professional educators, and the community that you represent, to be involved in these important discussions. We would also like to get information on the proposed language immersion at the elementary level. Thank you very much in advance on behalf of the LOTE department and concerned parents and students.
Anyone else?
Good evening. Nick Senes, here as a parent. I'd like to go ahead and just echo the sentiments of the language department. I wasn't aware they were going to speak tonight. I'll go ahead and ask my questions as if they didn't present. I would also like to ask the board if they could clarify and expand goal number 2 as it's presented in the on the website. As I read, by July 1st, 2012, develop a board-approved plan to change language offerings to better prepare students for an ever more competitive world, and to provide language immersion offerings for the elementary building. As a follow-up, what is the process for parents and teachers to be offered an opportunity to comment on the plan before it's voted on? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tara Cooper. I'm a teacher at the high school. I just have a request as an audience member, and a lot of my students, I'm a government teacher, they come to the meetings, and they frequently complain that it's difficult to hear sometimes when you're speaking. I don't know if that's a request, I don't know if that's a technology thing that we can work out, but it is hard to hear sometimes what you're saying, so a lot of times the kids come back to class, and they don't know what you're saying. And even tonight, and I'm really close to the front, it's hard to hear you sometimes. So if there, maybe in the future, if there's some way we can work out the mic situation, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We try to get better every time. That's part of the reason we moved to the auditorium was trying to get better acoustics. So we are trying.
I wonder if we might just have a show of hands of when you're having trouble hearing us, just raise your hand, and then we'll know that we need to move closer. Then we need to move closer to the microphone. See, it works. Does that work?
Well, I'm not sure because they should have raised their hands if they couldn't hear you. So
That's
sure
sure
how that works. All right. Anyone else like to speak? Thank you.
Okay. Resignations. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation of bus attendant John Suida be accepted effective September 23rd, 2011. The board and administration wish to thank Mr. Suida for his 45 years of service to the district. Suida, sorry. John Suida.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation of bus driver Desiree McAllister be approved effective October 6th, 2011.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Julianne Valenco be laid off as a bus driver effective October 3rd, 2011. No run available after bidding.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Abstentions? Motion carries.
Appointments. All appointments will not be effective in service to the district pursuant thereto shall not begin until there has been compliance with statutory and regulatory provisions for fingerprinting certification and clearance for employment. Appointments Central Co-Treasurer Extra Classroom Activity Account. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Jennifer Sune, be appointed as Central Co-Treasurer for the Extra Classroom Activity Account for the 2011-12 school year. Note this appointment is necessary as Jen Lee signs all cash receipts while Mary signs all the checks.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve change in transportation hours and routes. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, changes in hours and routes for the transportation department be approved as attached effective September 7, 2011.
Discussion? And one question. I was trying to figure out that spreadsheet, and can you give us the highlights of what changed? Oh, I said, I didn't quite understand the spreadsheet that was attached. I was wanting to know if Lisa wanted to explain the.
Well, we don't have the changes from last year. This was a result of the new transportation bus system. And basically how the routes were scheduled, they had to rebid. And it was decided rather than in October to rebid in September.
Was there any net change in total hours or any?
There actually was.
Just a shuffle. Sorry, that was due to the new
schedule.
The algorithm we used to do the schedule. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Recall bus driver. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Julianne Blenko be recalled as a bus driver effective October 4th, 2011. Ms. Blenko will be working 1.5 hours per day under 30. Salary will be at CSEA contract level 9, step 1.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Recall bus attendant. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Judith Gustas Stoy be recalled as a bus attendant effective October 4th, 2011. Mrs. Gustas Stoy will be working 3.0 hours per day under 11. Salary will be at CSEA contract level 4, step 1.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve change in transportation hours and routes. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, changes in hours and routes for the transportation department be approved as attached effective October 3rd, 2011.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve conference attendance. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the conference request for Colin Campbell to attend fiscal oversight responsibility training at Erie One BOCES on November 19th, 2011 be approved.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Create full-time physical therapist position. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, a motion is made to create a full-time physical therapist position. Note, civil service considers anything over 19 hours as full-time.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Approve conference requests. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, conference requests be approved for Stephen Cerny and Kristen Pinker to attend the annual school leadership dinner on October 6, 2011.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Accept the external audit report. I move that upon the recommendation of the audit committee, the external audit as prepared by Toski, Schaefer and Company, PC, for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2011, be accepted as presented.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve corrective action plan. I move that upon the recommendation of the audit committee, the Office of the State Controller's audit corrective action plan be approved as presented and filed with the New York State Education Department.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Designate surplus vehicles. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the following vehicles be designated as surplus due to age, mileage, and cost of repair. They have reached the end of their useful life. Bus number 161. So it's 161, year 2000, Freightliner, 66 passenger diesel. I don't want to read the VIN number. Approximate miles, 111,000 and change.
Discussion. All in favor? Oh, yeah.
They remove the bus, they remove everything from the
Yeah.
Actually, it's prepared to sell right now.
Can you repeat the question?
If I could ask a question again, Mike, please.
Yeah, I know there's one, I think I found one yesterday, it's still in the folder for me. That's the reason I asked.
There's one sitting on the side of there's a bus sitting next to the bus guard right now that's just been, everything's been stripped out. And I'm assuming it's 161.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve substitute rates. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, substitute teacher rates be approved as presented.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve cheerleaders overnight trip. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the varsity cheerleaders overnight trip to Orlando, Florida from February 23rd to February 27th, 2012 for the Contest of Champions national competition be approved.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Approve budget increase. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the 2011-12 budget be increased by $7,166.08 $26,168,803.11 to account for increased revenues. Note the district received $40.49 from Epibo Recycling for Eden Elementary, $12.61 from the Erie County Agricultural Society for Eden Elementary, $225.48 from Target for GLP, and $6,887.50 from Volleyball Club for 2011 tournament officials.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Appointments. Appoint long-term substitute Spanish teacher. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, John Bennett, who is initially certified in Spanish 7 through 12, be appointed as a long-term substitute Spanish teacher effective October 18, 2011 through January 2, 2012, or upon the return of Mrs. Cole. Salary is based upon bachelor's step 1.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Appoint AIS teacher. I move that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Rachel Kochmansky, who is initially certified in English Language Arts 7 through 12, be appointed on probation as an English AIS teacher effective October 18th and ending October 17th, 2014. Salary is based upon master's step 1.
Second. Discussion. I have a question. This position is a permanent position?
It's a probationary.
Excuse me. I guess the concern I have is I haven't had the opportunity to review any of the materials on this candidate, and I think before we vote on a permanent position, we need to be having the time to discuss this and look at the credentials. So, if anybody else has any comments, I actually moved to table this motion until next meeting to get further discussion.
Again, I would just share that this position is an English AIS position where we need that to reduce the numbers of AIS that are hovering right around 30 in several sections. So we're looking at using this person to fill that. I do apologize, as I did today in an email, for it being delayed in moving through our process. We've been working on it for a considerable amount of time. First blush, we didn't get a lot of responses. Second time around publishing it, we got a number more. Mr. Graff's committee interviewed, and I did my final interviews today. The concern that we have is by tabling it and putting it off until November, this individual is presently employed in another district. That neighboring district could keep her for up to 30 days before releasing her to come here. So upon our approval, she would tender her resignation there, and then they could keep her up to 30 days. Our understanding is that they might be willing to cut that in half. So our concern is having somebody in that classroom breaking up those numbers now as opposed to waiting until mid-November to do it.
When did you advertise the position?
We advertised it first in September, and then re-advertised it again late September. I think we do by first summer.
And when was the determination made that these students need AIS?
September at the start of school.
Based on what criteria?
Based on numbers of kids showing up and the number of kids that we had from the assessment.
The assessment results were known back in July or June.
When we did now, we had those assessment results Mr. Graff, they said mid-August.
We had
assessment results.
We had the actual scores back in June. The state verified results took longer to tell us. Yes. So I guess my concern is we should have known since June how much support we need in these areas. And now we're being asked without any information presented to us this afternoon to vote on a permanent position. And I can't feel good about voting for a position. I know nothing about the candidate. And I just think it puts us in a bad position to have to vote on something.
I don't disagree with you. I think that we should have the information sooner. basically, this position has been budgeted for replacement of a teacher who resigned.
That was a different budget position.
Correct, but it's also a budgeted position.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I would be more comfortable waiting to find out a little bit more about this candidate. I know in the legal and policy committee, we're talking about making some changes to some of the policies that would allow greater input into the candidates and understanding you know, why this particular candidate happened to be the very best. I'm a little concerned about rushing forward on a permanent appointment that we really just got the information this afternoon. And I understand the circumstances that surrounded that, but I also think that we don't necessarily have to wait a whole another month. So I think if we were able to resolve some of the concerns that we have, we could call a special meeting and have a vote whenever we're ready to do that prior to the November meeting.
I mean, that would be perfectly fine. Just again, I just want the board to know that the day you vote, it could be up to 30 days before this individual is able to sit in the classroom. And I hear Mr. Cerny in regards to timing, disagree in regards to when we had the exact scores and began building the AIS piece and the other circumstances in regards to the other resignation that we have. But the bottom line is that we have kids in an AIS program that need a teacher, and we don't have the teacher there. And ultimately, by delaying the vote, we could be delaying the vote until, or could be delaying this person coming until sometime in November, or in December. We'll wait until November.
Well, I don't have an issue with providing the support for the kids, because that's important. I think that's very important too. I just have an issue with how getting to the answer. Excuse me. So I don't have any problem with putting a position in place. I think that's something we need to do, and I fully support that. I just have a real issue with how we're at the last minute pushing something through like this. So I think it's important as this position. So
again, I would just say that we did talk about the fact that we were working very hard to push it through last week, and that the board would be getting that information sometime on Monday, as soon as Mr. Graff's committee finished their work, and I had an opportunity to interview the candidates. Possibly had we known on Tuesday that there was going to be an issue with that, we very well have been able to do the interviews. My interviews late Friday afternoon and got it out to you Friday afternoon. But I waited until Monday morning to have the candidates come in and interview.
do we have any other options to take care of this position until the vote takes place?
So we would have to put someone from the sublist in that classroom for DM sublist, and we have no ELA teachers to support.
There's not a single ELA teacher in the sublist.
Oh, we have ELA teachers in the sublist, but my understanding is that will be in. So we have our third DM sub.
We do have somebody who can take care of this into the short term, so we can get a proper look at the focus.
If they're willing, ultimately, they're willing to do that. I mean, again, that's fine.
Any other discussion, comments? Yeah.
We continually talk about trust amongst the board and the administration. And in this case, I understand you don't have their information, but this is a case where we have to trust the administration. I have full trust that they proceeded by.
discussion? All in favor of tabling the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And that takes care of all things on the agenda.
Well, before we go to Mr. Graff and Mr. Schaefer, we'll go to Kendall. She's just joining us from Volleyball. Would you like to do your presentation before we go to?
On behalf of Student Council, we'd like to present you with our investment and we're looking for some part of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
In front of you, a table. It should look somewhat like this. Shades of red and yellow. Thanks to Mrs. Schnaufer, who pulled all this data. The sources are the New York State Department and the Data Warehouse. And as you look at this, the first one you should have in front of you, the heading is Math 3 through 8 Erie County Comparison. We have all 28 school districts listed. On the left side column, you see Eden, alphabetically down in purple. And this is a look at last year's performance on the math test. You see they are looking at the areas of what they call the index. The index is a formula. 2 times our 4s, 2 times our 3s, 1 time our 2s, and 0 for our 1s, times 100 divided by the number of students who took the test. This is the comparison that the board has chosen as in the goals of looking at for math and ELA. You see our index score. You see it for each one as you read across, for each one of the grades 3 through 8 that took the New York State math test last year, and an overall index, an average index on the right side of 171.4. This is, you can compare it to the other 28 school districts in Erie County, and if you flip to the back of that page, you will see the Eden rank out of the 28 school districts for each one of the grades compared to the rest of Erie County, and for Eden overall compared to the other 28 districts, and 14 out of 20 of the 28 districts.
That Eden rank, Mr. Schaefer, is 14? Is that what you said?
Yes.
And that's average 3 through 8, right?
3 through 8. You see across the bottom of the second page how each one of the grades ranked against the other 28 school districts.
So you're 20th in the county in grade 3.
Yes.
3rd in grade 4. 13 in grade 5. Number 1 in grade 6. 18 grade 7 and 21 in grade 8.
Correct.
You get it? That's very good, thank you.
The second page, the heading is ELA 3 through 8, Erie County Data Comparison. And again, as you look down the left column, you see in purple, Eden. You see the index scores across. The overall index score, the average index score, 161.8. If you go to the second page, you see the rankings again for Eden compared to the other 28 school districts in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then an overall ranking of 13 out of the 28 school districts.
There was 13 overall on average, right?
Yes.
And 12 from grade 3, 7, grade 4, 12, grade 5, 6, grade 6, 17th, grade 7, 15th, and grade 8.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Graff, did you want to talk about the increases?
I knew Mr. Schaefer had a reputation to be entertaining, but this crowd was too much. Unfortunately, since not all Erie County schools, or actually not all the school districts in New York State, scan their Regents exams this year, moving forward, they have to do that by regulation. We jumped on board before it was mandatory, which is a good thing. That started about 3 years ago and got us on our way to our data analysis meetings. So what I did is I took the Regents exams from last year, compared it to the 2010 data. I really just compared it against ourselves. And again, using the board goal and using the performance index as the end result, you can see as you go across. In the Regents exams, I give you the number of students tested per year. And on Regents exams, students who score below 55 are considered the level 1. Students who score 55 to 64 are considered level 2. 64 to 84, level 3, and 85 plus are level 4. So we use the same formula, set up the formula, went across, and we're also going to look at the mastery data as we compare to other districts. So I did do that for the Regents exams, just to start benchmarking so that we can have some basis for moving forward with our board goal. So you can see, the comparisons there from year to year, just for the last couple of years. And on the bottom, you can see our overall mastery rate for 2011 was 41%. And at some point, we're going to have to figure it out, that overall mastery, including the 3 through 8 testing, that is not happening yet. Because that will be the basis for that 10% increase next year. So I don't know if there's any questions. On the blue sheets, I know this is always a good one because this one allows you to track a group of students across the board from when they start in earlier grade down. So I just looked at, just to give you a comparison, I want to focus on that number 1 group of math students. It's 6th graders. If you map them back from 6th grade back through the 9-10 school year, the 8-9 school year, all the way back to the 7-8 school year when they were in 3rd grade, you can see that particular group of students has really performed above their Erie 2 and state level, same cohort of students, okay, in comparison to that same group moving across. Same thing, yeah, and that group in particular they've been head and shoulders above those groups. The 8th grade students, that was one of our focuses this year in our action plan, and I know you're going to hear more about that next month, but I just wanted to point out that in 2009, 2010, we had 51% proficiency, and in our action plan, we made that one of our points of emphasis to really, put some things in place to get those scores up to or at the Erie 2 level. At that point, it was based on this exact chart that you have in front of us. So you can see that we made an 11% gain this year from 9 to 10 based on that individual test. We went from 51% to 62%, which was an excellent increase. And it shows that the focus we put on that group helped. Unfortunately, we fell a little bit behind the Erie 2 cohort again, but we closed the gap. We closed the gap from 13% down to about 6% and had an increase of 11% moving forward. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to point out as you're reading this. And actually, as you go test by test in math, we had increases across the board, except for in 3rd grade, we fell a little bit behind this year based on the previous year's score. But overall, not too bad. The ELA scores.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
I mean, you go to the 8th grade, you gave an 8th grade example, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to follow that from.
Okay. So last year, I'm just looking at the 9-10 data. That was the year of the new cut score. Okay, so you see everybody took a big hit across the board because of the new cut score. So in 9-10, if you look down in Eden Math 8, we had 51.1%. And we had a gap of 13% in comparison to Erie 2. Okay, Erie 2 had 64% proficiency rate, we had 51. So there was a 13% gap there.
But that same group the year before was 94%, 95%, you were above.
Correct. So if you were to move back, right, that's why this is a good chart to have in front of you, because this really allows you to track a particular group of students in comparison to the same cohort group all the way through.
Does 9-10 and 10-11 represents the new cut scores, correct, though?
The 9-10 is the new cut score.
Move forward, we didn't go back to the old.
Correct.
We maintained those.
Correct.
And you did the same calculation for us against the peers?
Yes. Yes.
So what that says then is that group was doing better every year.
Right.
Versus Erie 2.
Correct.
Until they got the 8th grade.
Until they got the 8th grade.
Same thing with.
And again, at that point, that's again, that jumped off the page to us last year when we were standing here doing this same presentation. We made that a point of emphasis this year, and now we've increased that from 51% to 62% and closed that gap up a little bit.
Thank you.
And you can, again, looking at the ELA scores, if you just want to make a note on there that the 9-10 again was the new cut scores. One of the points of emphasis in our action plan was 3rd grade ELA, and actually it jumped off the page to me when I was looking at it. Last year our proficiency rate in 3rd grade, or I'm sorry, 9-10, the proficiency rate was 52%, and we increased that 20% this year to 72%. So again, the action plan seemed to have helped that situation out. New York State report card, which you do not have in front of you, but we did report on at one point. I do want to point out that our graduation rate again was one of the highest in Western New York at 98% this year, which is an outstanding accomplishment. We are schools and districts in good standing across the board, which again, we should all be proud of that. We don't want to lose track of that. We should be very proud of that fact that we do very well for our students here, and students get a great experience, as you see today. We give them a well-rounded, great experience at UNE. And I'm proud to be part of it. So I don't know if there's any particular questions about anything we have. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
What I have, thank you, Mr. Grant, for passing those out. What he's passing out is a copy of an actual warrant that I look at 2-3 times a month. Check runs are done by Mary Labasco and Jenny twice a month. And we make arrangements for me when those are going to be done, and that's when I come in. And this is the report that I work with, and I also start out with a stack of the claims that the district is paying. Okay, and in this particular warrant audit, let's start with my reviews on each of the claims. Okay, I need to verify all the information in the packet. Okay, every will notice some will have POs, some will not have POs. I'm sorry, I think those are purchase orders. And purchase orders require the information that also give me the information on what I should be looking for in a packet. So this is why I gave you a copy of the warrant, so I can kind of touch on a couple of examples so that you can kind of understand what I do, okay? Now, the first one on here, if you look on page 1, check number 18706, okay? That was for a volleyball tournament. Now, any kind of tournaments that the athletic department has for whatever school is going on, I have to review to make sure that the proper documentation is there with the letter stating that they have been invited to this tournament and what it's going to cost per team and per student sometimes, depending on the type of sport. That information must be reflected on the warrant and on the check. And as you can see, we have, in this particular one, it was a volleyball tournament, and it describes it was for the boys, and it also describes having a total amount. That total amount for that check must compare to the invitation that was sent by the district school that is sponsoring the tournament. I also look for any appropriate signatures that are required for that, and I ensure that all that is supporting that particular item. If you drop down to check number 18711, that one happened to be for services that the district had on paving and sealing. The PO described the services that we were going to be given, and obviously the amount that that service should cost. What you also see is below that is to the left, there is a number there, that's an invoice number, that 110801. That's an invoice number. That invoice must also reflect what the purchase order is telling me, so that I can compare the information and ensure that what was requested to be done was done, and that the appropriate amount was charged to us, and that is what we end up paying, okay? Sometimes it is lower, not later. Let's see. You also will notice, if you page through a couple of things, as I'm going through each of the claims, I have to review information. So I'm always looking for, is the invoice number correct, and is it correctly posted on the warrant? Because if there was any reason for anyone to look for that particular claim, for any question on it, you've got to be able to find the invoice number, and it should duplicate and be able to mesh everything together. So I make notes on the warrant stating if there's an incorrection, and on this particular check 18720, there was a misprint on the check and on the warrant of an inappropriate invoice number. So I always make sure that that is corrected on both, not only the warrant, but also the packet claim that I work with. I also look for signatures that are required, authorizing signatures on POs. When items are received in, such as office supplies, let's say, those items have to reflect what is on the invoice. So I'm always double checking both to make sure that everything is in sync. I also am checking the prices used, if they used the bid, if they did not use the bid, if they didn't, why they didn't. I check for, obviously, make sure the tax was not charged to us. Some companies do charge us freight, some don't. And I have to make sure that that comparison is there. And usually the purchase order is fully with the information on how much each item costs. It is extended out by the quantities, and I compare that information. Sometimes the shipping is excluded because they didn't realize that there was shipping. Sometimes it is there, but that total on the PO must match the invoice, with the exception, obviously, sometimes there's a price decrease, or somebody included shipping and didn't require it. That's okay. I do have some leeway in that, but obviously, if it's way too exceeding, I certainly would not approve it. I also check with the vendors on any kind of shipment, the items we're receiving, that there's a packing list. Anytime you receive a package at your house, you get an item. You get an invoice. It's usually on the outside of the box. If it's not on the outside, it will be on the inside. And you should be able to verify the items that you have in your box. If those items are checked off, the items are received in. And I know that then the district, I can't be everywhere to check every box that comes into the district. So I rely on those that are responsible for checking those items in to take that packing list and make sure that all the items were received. And if nothing was, then they should be reporting it back to Mrs. Soule to let her know that items weren't received and we're not to pay for those items until they are. And I have seen an improvement on that. When I started 2 years ago, packing lists, I hardly saw them. I started requesting them, I get them. And when I don't have them, I am getting at least on the PO, they are checking the items off on the purchase order, using that as their packing list and signing off that the items were received. That's acceptable. Anytime that I don't see required documentation and or signatures or anything like that, I make a note on the warrant and I do not release the check until I get the items that I'm looking for. I will use email myself if I need to, but I also work with Mrs. Soule, and she will contact appropriate people, and she will work it, and when she gets the documentation or the signatures that I require, she will contact me either by the phone and let me know that the paperwork is in, and I will stop in the district and I will come in and sign it, and then the check will be released. There are times when they need it immediately, so we have set up where they can scan the information to me. I receive it at home, and via email, I will respond and approve it, and then the next time that I'm physically in the district, I will then sign off on the day I actually accepted it via the email and let them know, so that if anybody else, the external auditors are looking at this, they'll know that I looked at that paperwork and that I approved it and it was released for payment. I also, as I'm going through the warrant, you'll notice if you look through on page 13/19, there are sometimes vendors that we have a lot of purchase orders coming through and a lot of invoices come in at the same time and they're due at the same time. So what the girls in the office do is that they end up putting it on 2 checks, and of course one that has to be avoided because it's a continued check. So I, in my process, when I see a voided check come up, I ask for the physical printout of the original check that is normally mailed to a vendor, but obviously this one won't because it's voided, so that I can personally sign off that that check is voided and not going anywhere. Just to make, it's a backup to make sure, so every voided check that I see, I have to have my signature on it, or I will not let that particular vendor check go out until I see the voided one with it. On page 15 of 19, sometimes there comes a time when I also have to verify that the purchase order dates are before the invoice date, meaning that if somebody is requesting to purchase something, they need to request it before they actually get it. So purchase order dates, I check that against the invoice date. There are times when it is before. You have emergency services that are required, repairs. Until I get that information that is what the reasoning is, then I will approve the check and I will make a note of it, and also make a note that I have noticed that that PO was dated after the invoice date. There are also times as we get to the end of the fiscal year, at the end of June, the request to the vendor is, can you please date the invoice as 7/1, and a lot of times the date is 6/30, not 7/1, and the PO is 7/1, and but that has to be noted, and I make note of it, and I know what vendors they are, so I kind of keep track on the vendors that I have any issues, just to see if anything comes back repeatedly. Also, as I had stated before, I come in like about 2 days a week. Now, if you turn to page 19 and 19, you'll see that I was in one day, and I went and performed my audit, went through each of the claims, and at the end of the warrant, I have to sign off that I have released these claims for payment. But a lot of times, if I'm missing something, and I need something, I have to deduct that from the amount, and I will only note the claims that I did approve to be released and the date. Anything that I am holding, I note below. I give the check number, the amount, what I'm looking for, and the date I held it. Because then when it is resolved, then the next step would be the date I resolved it, and I sign off on it. On this particular one, just as like I said about the approving via email, we had an emergency back before I came in September, and that was a check that had to go out for postage for the tax bills, for the school tax bills. And they contacted me in the morning. By the afternoon, I had it in an email and was able to go through the paperwork, approve it, and send it back so that they could get the check out from the stamp so that the tax bills could be mailed out. Then, if you go to the next page, now this is when I come in the second time. This is the second check. What I do is I receive a whole copy of the warrant again, including the checks that I've already approved. And I'll squiggle a line across it just so that I know where I'm starting, and then I proceed, and I continue on. And as I go through, again, you'll see I will have different notes stating different information. I also have to verify amounts. There are times when broken out on the warrant, such as Amazon, I get the same invoice number reference, but two different amounts. I have to make sure that that amount equals what I'm reading on the invoice as well. So I'm also verifying totals and making sure that everything is in order. I also know when anytime there's a glitch in the system, like I happen to have this month, there was a glitch with a check, and again, that check was voided, so that was something I signed off, but I noted there was a glitch in the system. I think I covered everything. Does anybody have any questions for me? Does that answer your question about approximately what I'm
We thought you process work, so we thought it would be good to know, since we're supposed to know.
I represent you guys when it comes to reviewing these claims. So I'm the one that takes the time to actually go through. It takes me 5 to 6 hours a day when I am in, sometimes longer, it depends on the size of the.
So the one-page report, two-page report that we get from you are the items that you have already, that you had questions about, but those have already been resolved at the time that we received them.
Yes, by the time my report gets to you, if I have gotten through everything and I've gotten all the backup documentation, like I've had checks held from the beginning of the month, and I don't get it resolved until the end of the month, because that's when I finally get the backup documentation. If it's just looking for a signature, something along those lines, I don't put it on that report that I give to you. If I find something that I have held or I had an issue with and I think you should know about it, I will put it out so that you know that there could be a problem in that area. We just need to watch it, and so you know that I'm watching it as well. I personally keep a log for myself as I go through the warrant, because obviously, like I said, some vendors don't send packing lists, so now I have a list of those vendors so that I know as I get to the vendors, I'm not constantly looking. Also, if I have to answer any questions when the external orders are in, I can explain why I included it, and I can show them my details. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mary Labasco, District Treasurer, for the hard work she does year-round and her attention to detail. Tosky Shaker had no audit findings, no adjusting entries, and 2 recommendations for improvement. Without Mary and her attention to details, our audits would not be as successful as they've been. Based upon Tosky and Schaefer's recommendations, would you like to give the claims auditor, Diana Ray, more hours to work now, beginning, so she can begin to audit trust and agency checks, or would you rather wait and budget it for next year? Her main focus would be the extra classroom and payroll-related accounts.
Make us a proposal, I guess.
Actually, okay. Okay, and the budgeting process has begun. I'm going to send down our timeline. This information was shared with the administrators and department heads. They were notified that budgetary information must be entered before January 9th so we can begin our budget review. The budget must be adopted by the board no later than April 20th, 2012. You just want to take a look at this and let me know if you have any changes or suggestions.
I said one suggestion, and that is, we talked about having some working sessions on different topics, and it seems, given the challenge we're going to have with this tax cap next year, that we should get together in a working session and try to understand what options we have, what our challenges, what you have as you're going into this, so we can spend more time sooner with this, so we can look for the best answer possible. With the gap we're expecting around $3 million right now, with the tax cap of 2%, we got a lot of challenges, so the sooner we can work on this and get it for anybody we can, I think the better.
Yeah, I've got another meeting on the 25th, so I should have something, hopefully more concrete information. By our next board meeting on tax cap.
Okay, I'm thinking something even before the next board meeting to start talking about it, because we're going to have to spend a lot of time. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that? Yeah. Just to get a better grounding of what's what. Something early morning. It's okay with me. 6:30 on any dates we can move out, maybe do it a week or so. Next week.
My meeting is on the 25th, so I would prefer the following week.
First and second, look at the school calendar. 16th, first school calendar is before. And then we want to do it earlier. We also have the 21st is the day of the visit. We are planning on the day before that. Later on, maybe another additional day.
What day do we do that?
The 21st is a Monday.
November.
November 1st is a Monday.
November 1st is a Tuesday.
Getting closer.
November 1st is a Tuesday.
First or second.
Second, early morning. 16th. Tuesday.
Does that sound okay? First, November 1st, anybody?
I'd like to echo Kendall's thank you to the board for your work and your volunteer efforts on behalf of kids in the district. Thank you for support the district. Second on my list, I'd like to share with you, it's a short video, but I'd like to start at board meetings presenting a little bit of information about where we're going from a state perspective on Common Core curriculum, the new technology mandates that we have, and the new assessment mandates that we're moving to a national assessment process where students will be assessed 4 times a year and will be done electronically. So I'd like to start with the Common Core curriculum, and I think for State Literacy, and really just a brief overview. And I will move out of this way too. So you can get some sound. This is our new Commissioner of Education. Yeah, we're going to try to work. Yeah, we're going to do that. Thank you, Carrie.
Will impact our assessment system. So by 2012-13, we'll go online for state assessments with the Common Core. We will also build curriculum materials. The Common Core will have a key role in our data system. Through new analysis of whether it's the statewide assessments or local assessments, what we'll be looking for is how are students doing against the Common Core, and then using that data to drive instruction. We'll also use the Common Core to influence how we train teachers, how we prepare our principals, and certainly how we evaluate teachers and principals. Finally, we'll use the Common Core to drive professional development, to make teaching and learning even better, have students leave their K-12 experience even better prepared for the rigors of writing and reading at the college level or in their careers. So that's the work that we have ahead today, and looking forward to the discussion. Dave, maybe you could begin to describe for us some of the national context around the Common Core, what it is that we hope the Common Core will achieve.
Well, Commissioner, as you know, across development Common Core very much following what you began with, that is when you describe what New York State is true widely in the country. There's been advances in improving graduation rates, but the very disappointing news that improving graduation rates often is without more kids really advancing college and career, which, as you said, terribly means that they wind up in remediation courses. And unfortunately, for many kids, remediation is a trap course that do not escape. As many of those students, as you very well know, enter remediation not to move and finish college. Many of them don't. So the value for college and the design of Common Core standards was to design a body of standards that were truly college and career ready. By that I mean they make a staircase that is, if you achieve the things in each grade of these standards, there is a very strong evidence base that shows you are ready, truly ready, for the demands of college and career. And that's not true typically of several state standards, in which students can pass their courses and pass the exams and still find them. And so, as more than 40 states gathered to develop those standards, that was the top design principle, was that these standards had to be based on a strong enough foundation that students were truly ready for the demands of college and career, and that was our guiding principle to developing them. So I can't say how excited I am to hear your ideas of using them to refocus the system on achieving that for all students, because that's precisely what they were meant to do. There were two other principles that are important for people to know about as they think of working on these standards. I've already hinted at the second. The second was that evidence always mattered. It was not enough for any of us or anyone who was involved in that meant 40 states, that meant researchers, that meant teaching organizations, and higher education as well. All of us were looking at what does it really take to be ready for college and career. But evidence always mattered. That is, it was always most relevant when the strongest evidence was that we really knew what was essential for career college readiness. so many standards that teachers don't have enough time to teach and students don't have time to practice. So we had to focus on what matters most. And the third place we went is focus. By focusing on what matters most for college and career readiness, these standards can give teachers the diversity and the platform they need to do the work that we're going to teach.
Fantastic. Well, I think our goal in the next portion of the conversation is to really learn more about what Common Core standards and diversity are all about and how they might change practice in classrooms.
So, David, principals and teachers are asking me a lot, what is it that we should think about first as we're settling into the Common Core, planning professional development this summer? What exactly is your advice for practitioners in the state as they begin to make the transition from the 2005 state standards to the Common Core?
I think what's most useful in looking at the Common Core literacy is to focus on 6 primary shifts in instruction. The kind of changes, fundamental changes in the heart of the core, so that students really are college and career ready by the time we're done with K-12. And you might first ask, why do we need to shift? And the commissioners already talked about the kind of graduation rate and the problem of remediation. But you can see even earlier, if you look at 8th grade NAEP scores, the 8th grade National Assessment of Educational Progress, for 40 years, 8th grade reading scores have been unapproachable. They've been completely flat during a period which we've doubled educational spending. So we've made some progress in reading in the earliest grades, but we really have wanted a later reading instruction, later comprehension, not just in our state, but really throughout the country. And so I like to think of these standards as a battery ram to break through that. And in order to do that, 6 things need to change. So the first change in instruction in the core standards is in kindergarten to 5th grade, there's an equal balance of information text and literary text. What I mean by that is overwhelmingly today in kindergarten to 5th grade, students read stories, they read literature. And we have data that only 7% of what students read now in kindergarten to 5th grade is information text, including text about history or science, information on the world. And what that does, and that's also true of the curriculum they read in the exams they take, but research is clear that the general knowledge built in those early years about the world not only allows them to do history and science and later grades, but actually allows students to read more complex text because they gain a vocabulary and knowledge of the world that informs everything they do. And so it's particularly important for students from diverse backgrounds that they gain a shared general knowledge of rich vocabulary, which they can only gain by reading a coherent succession of knowledge, gaining a coherent succession of knowledge by reading information text from kindergarten through 5th grade. I think, by the way, this is a wonderful opportunity for elementary school teachers, because what happened to us is we made K-5 literacy instruction mostly literature, and then we expanded the literacy block because reading and math are so important. We effectively got rid of science and history. We kind of put them off to the side. The core standards enable elementary school teachers to reclaim their rightful role as teaching students about the world through history and science and the arts, as well as the regions. Shift number 2 continues that same theme, but in grades 6 through 12. So rather than these being English language arts standards, they're English language arts standards and also standards for literacy in history and social studies, as well as science and technical studies. That is, the standard your students adopt require that science and history teachers take a strong role in educating their children to gain knowledge through reading and writing. Students' ability to read complex primary and secondary sources of history is essential for their work in history and social sciences. And of course, in science, one's ability to draw knowledge from text is essential to the practice of every scientist. Practicing scientists spend at least half their time reading, in addition to the other experiments they do. So that's a shift in instruction. So rather than putting the burden entirely on the English teachers, we're really sharing the literacy instruction throughout the disciplines. The third shift is the advancement of reading in these core standards is an advancement in the complexity of the text that students are reading. Typically, state standards focus on the skills students gain as they grow in their grades, but that's an okay measure, really just okay, of their reading growth. The real difference between a college and career reading reader is the level of text complexity, the level of text difficulty they can master. And what we found in the research for standards is that the level of text difficulty, the level of complexity, is far beneath in our high schools what is required for the first year program. So it's no mystery why there are these higher reading rates, because the knowledge of students is not at the level that they then face when they enter college, or technical courses, or career environments. So for the first time, the standards, the core standards, create a staircase of text complexity. What I mean by that is, if you're ready to read 3rd grade text based on these standards, you're then ready for 4th and and reviewing instruction enrollment, we're seeing an overwhelming number of questions that students are asked when they're reading text. Perhaps surprisingly, don't require them to carefully read the text that's out there. So perhaps in clarifications, we ask them all sorts of questions about what they feel, what they think about, what text might remind them of or connect to. And it's not that those questions aren't valuable, but when they take up 80% of the time, what gets lost is the careful analysis of the text itself and drawing evidence from the text. And it's really that core activity that these standards focus on. How much knowledge and evidence does a student take from each text that they read, and can they integrate that rich knowledge together? Once that's done, of course, it's very exciting to connect that post-work to experience, to the other reading, the first immersion in the evidence and facts of the text. The fifth shift is what we're calling here writing to sources. If we were to talk about the most popular forms of writing today in American high school, and since I am a New Yorker myself, I think they're equally popular in our state, it would be narrative writing. Narrative writing of personal opinion, meaning what you think about heroes, or garbage disposal, or school uniforms, for example. These are the common parlance of narrative opinion writing. Things about what you think about it, but also your own experience. So what you experience at various times, life intense experiences. So narratives about your opinion or your experience are at the core of high school activity. The only problem is, when you move into the world of career and college, people frankly care a lot less about what you feel or what you think. What they do care about very much though is whether you can argue based on things. Can you assemble evidence that is verifiable and make a claim consistently? Can you convey complex information clearly? So what happens in these course standards is while narrative is carefully cultivated, more so in the earliest grades, when it's essential to help students' voice and expressiveness, creativity, and also, by the way, an essential way they gain the kind of sequence that's essential for argument and information writing. But in high school, the dominant forms of writing clearly become writing of argument and writing truth in order to set students are writing. And what's also exciting, for the first time, we begin building those capacities from the earliest grade. So beginning in kindergarten, you may know that young children love to argue, and we help them get really right about that from the stages. The final shift is academic vocabulary is at the core of these standards, and you might even say the true language of power that these standards celebrates. That is, if you look at traditional English language arts standards or a traditional textbook, the first few pages of it are the overwhelming list of literary terminology that they focus on, such as autonomy, etc., raising thought, rising thought, falling thought, etc. We all know those terms. And they have a role in the hands of a gifted teacher. But the crucial vocabulary that students really need to master is the academic vocabulary that's prevalent not just in complex literary texts, but in all complex like science tests, history texts. What I mean here is not as much domain-specific vocabulary like amoeba or cell wall, which is often helpful in bold on the right side of the page when you're reading it, but academic vocabulary like subsequent, analysis, or theory, or evidence. And if you don't grasp those words, all of complex text is not evidence. And this is particularly important for our students, because intensive focus on this academic vocabulary allows those students into a full range of types that otherwise not be able to. So those 6 shifts, you might sum them up as reading like a detective and writing like a professor. The college and career ready student can read a range of socially complex texts, understand it, analyze it, thoughtful connections between it, integrate knowledge from it, and then write it down. And that's a large lesson.
Thank you. I apologize for the sound. We will, again, as Mr. Srinivasan, we will continue to work to get it better and we'll try to get ourselves plugged in for these videos. If anyone would like to review this video again and be able to hear it a little bit better, you can go to Engage New York and view it there. There's a number of videos there from the state, and there's more there each and every day. I believe that's all that I have. This is, again, there's one piece of the Common Core standards that we're now working with. These are national Common Core standards, and really, as you heard or could barely hear, we're talking about embedding literacy in K-12 curriculum as part of the ELA curriculum. So, teachers will be working on that this year and into the coming 2 years. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
I want to take a minute, and I guess it's very timely given some of the comments earlier on, to actually present to you the goals that the board and the administration had come up with. We did some of this work over a number of sessions over the last probably 3-4 months, and we kind of came up with this, and it's clear to me that it's not effectively been rolled out in any way. So I'd like to take the first crack at least explain to you what some of the thoughts were when we did this, and then from there we can figure out if there's some more appropriate time to have some other sessions to discuss some of this. But what we did with this, all right, stand up so you can see me. You want me to walk around with the mic too? I'll go without the mic. See if this works better. So what we did, we got together for the first time, I think, at least that I know of, for the board and the administration actually to get together and make use of ours. All right, so what we did was we got together for what I thought was the first time for the board and the administration to get together to work together to come up with what we thought were goals for the district. And the reason that was important to do is because we need to have the board and the administration all working in the same direction. And I'm not sure that's always been the case. So this is the first attempt to try and close that gap and everyone pointing in the same direction. The way the process is supposed to work is we're supposed to define some of the goals representing what the district needs to accomplish and where it wants to go short-term and, more importantly, long-term. And where we go with that is the next stage is once we have it defined, then we can start figuring out what are the plans we need to put in place to actually achieve that. All right. One of the most important things that we have to figure out is when it comes to budget time, where do we put the limited resources? Everybody knows we have limited resources. Where do we put those against where we want the district to go? So this was an attempt to start to set out a path that everyone is on to figure out exactly where we want to go and what the priorities are and what we want to accomplish as a district. Okay? So, right or wrong, this is our starting point. So we tried to put something down that we thought was a good place that we could start working towards. Every year this process will evolve, it'll get better, I hope, and we'll start to come up with things that keeps pushing us all in the right direction. So that was the process. So we had several meetings to work on this. Is that big enough? Can everyone read that? Yes, no? Yes. No. All right. Now the teachers sit in the back. Okay, so from now on you gotta sit closer. Can we pull that up a little bit? The first one on there was we put a whole laundry list of things together, trying to figure out what are the different areas that individuals and then ultimately work together to come to some kind of consensus that we think were the right goals for the district to be working on. Okay. So one of the ones that kept coming up was around student achievement. What are the student achievement measures we need to have in place? Different ones were thrown around, and we tried to figure out how we could come up with a good measure that would mean something, and that's something that's tangible. One of the things you want to have with goals are tangible and measurable. Okay, so we tried to come up with something that will at least get us tangible and measurable, and time frame. We also have to have a time frame so we can know if you got there or not. So we're working again towards the same goals and the same time frame. So on student achievement, what we decided was that the main criteria or benchmark we wanted to have was something that didn't necessarily move at the whim of the state. Part of the issue we have is that the state sometimes changes cut scores and then it doesn't mean as much as it did the year before. You're kind of lost on where your place is in the scheme of things, okay? So what we decided to do, what we decided to do was benchmark ourselves basically against things we know, other schools in the district, because they're subject to the other, to the whims of the state as well. So we at least could see how we're doing relative to them under the assumption that they're all trying to move forward as well. So we wanted to move ourselves forward and even move up closer to some of the schools that are perennially at the top of the list. Okay, so that's why we picked the group we picked. By the way, anybody can jump in here at any time since everyone's there, so give me a hand if I need it. So that's why we picked the groups we did. We tried to pick a time frame that we thought was reasonable yet challenging. We don't hit the goals in the time frame, it's not the end of the world. but it at least shows we show we're making progress towards it, and then we can figure out if we need to adjust it or why we didn't hit it and what we need to do differently so we can get there. So if you see up there is basically being top 10 on the average for all grades through the scores that you saw Mr. Schaefer present today. And that would be in end of the 2013-14 school year. And then same thing, top 5 of 15-16 school year. Okay, so I think, was that 3 years and 5 years? I believe is what it was. So that was what we picked. Could be right, could be completely unattainable. Could be a slam dunk. We don't know, but it's a starting point. We now have a stake in the ground, so we can now see if we're making some progress. So that was the intent. All right, so that was the student achievement one, some way to measure student achievement. All right, the second one, the one that several of you spoke on today, was around languages. The thought there was to take a look at the language program we have. We've had the same language program in Eton for 40 years. The world has changed, the world is different. The economy of the world has changed. So the question is, are we still offering the right language programs to support our students to best prepare them to go out into the world? So that's what this is about, is to assess where we are, what we need. It's an important thing in the world economy to have our students prepared in languages. So we want to take a look at it, come up with a plan. It may come back with the same answer, it may come back with a different answer. But the point is, we should look at it and see what was come up with on the language front. Okay, so that was a thought there. 10-year plan, fully vetted, long-range 10-year plan. Districts change slowly over time. We need to have a long-term plan where we are going to be in 10 years from now, because a lot of things don't come overnight. Facilities don't come overnight. Changes in the faculty, if we need to have different offerings either way, they don't come overnight. So we need to have a place where we want to go in 10 years on a lot of the physical things, if you will. Staff, facilities, things like that. So we want to know where we're going so we can start planning towards that. Let's see. And the last one. And the last one is we really need to improve communications. I'm glad there's so many folks here tonight, because this is a good chance for us to talk about why we did the goal setting session, what the goals are, what we're thinking behind them. Because we want to work with the community. The board, I don't think, has done a very good job in the past of working with the constituents in the community to try and find out what they're thinking, what they wish, what the faculty and staff wish. I had the first day myself, when I came in to talk for a couple minutes with the faculty and staff, I invited everyone to call me if you want to talk about something. We're a few months into it, no one's called. And not that I'm lonely or anything, but you know, if there's something you want to talk about, call any of us, and we'd be happy to come in and speak to you. If not hearing about the goals was something about you, it would be good to get a call and have us come out and speak with you. That's what we want to try and work together on these things. We've got a lot of challenges coming up, and the intent here is to try and work together, all of us, so that we can have a plan that everyone agrees to, and we get through a lot of the hurdles we're going to see over the next year or two. So that's what we came up with. So hopefully I did an okay job explaining it. Did I miss anything from anybody? Anything to add? Okay. I appreciate your time to listen to that, and we're going to try and do some more things here to talk about. I'll take a couple of questions.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was able to ask, but at this time.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. That's what we're trying to do anyways.
I think it's great to set goals. Do we have a plan for the resources for the school?
Excellent question.
To support the teachers?
Let me continue about the process. I forgot that part. I'm glad you asked that. The next step on this is for the administration to come up with the implementation plan to achieve this. All right? And that includes timelines, resources, and things like that. And I believe we're supposed to see a first draft of that next month. Okay? So we're supposed to see a first cut at what the administrators think we need to implement that. Doesn't mean it's going to be final product. I think that's what time the judge is.
Sorry, Mr. Cerny, two in one day. Are the teachers...
Using both questions up there. So.
Yeah, are the teachers who have all of the experience with the kids going to have a great input in making those decisions?
I hope so, Bertstein. I hope the administrators work with the teachers to get that input in these areas, because there's a lot of knowledge in this room and we need all of it.
Thank you.
There was 1A and 1B. I'll give you one more question. Yes. to see you. I don't see so well, sorry. I saw you, Ben.
Hard to miss, I guess. One of the items was the load. I can tell you it's one of the first meetings I've been to since I left the board a bunch of years ago. But the whole issue with the language, item number 2 on there reference, if you can put that back up. The reference change doesn't necessarily mean eliminate. It could also mean add to, increase the
Absolutely.
So I heard some of the comments, everyone hears the word change and automatically thinks, honey, how German or Spanish or Russian or what have you.
Right.
There wasn't a reference to including stakeholders in that particular item, while there was in item 3 or 4. Stakeholders, I'm assuming mean taxpayers, parents, students, teachers. Even though it's not specifically stated in item 2, I'm assuming the board, as part of implementing this goal, is going to reach out to all of the stakeholders in the community before any recommendation is made as to what those changes will be.
We haven't ironed out all how the process is going to work because we still have a bunch of time in front of us. So we don't know how that process is going to go, but yeah, at some point we need to, I don't know if it's when the recommendation comes to the board for that, or before it's approved or what, yeah, we need to get some input, some other stakeholders on what they think about it as well. I agree with that. But we don't have the process yet, so we do have to work on that. Part of the implementation plan should iron that out as far as how we're going about the work. All right, thank you. So people who don't want to go to 6 a.m. meetings because they can't sleep, if you'd like to see the board meetings, if you don't know, they're available online now. That's, again, back to this communication thing. We are trying to be as open and as communicative as we can. You see that we remind everybody in Penny Saver that there's board meetings occurring. The detailed agenda that you see up here is available before the meetings, so you can go online and look at it, see if it's of interest to come to the meeting. If you can't make the meeting, we're now recording them and we're posting those online so you can also see them and try and keep up. Again, we're trying to be as open and include as many people as we can, because again, we've got some challenges ahead of us, so we need to raise it we can get. All right, I think that covers our, sound a lot louder. Okay, with that, I make a motion that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation, the support staff salary agreement, terms and conditions, and the administrator's contract. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for coming, everyone.